Welcome to the Align and Inspire podcast. I'm your host, Laura Monique, teacher and curriculum writer turned program mentor and business strategist for coaches, educators, and mentors, and creator of signature program design. I've helped dozens of established coaches like you create their own signature program that creates incredible transformations and consistent growing revenue in their business. Whether you've created a program that felt off in some way, maybe it felt scattered or heavy or just hard to sell, or you know you're delivering results one-on-one and you want to create a more scalable offer, this is the podcast for you. Here you'll find practical strategies, encouragement, and inspiration to create the offer that you will be known for, that feels aligned, and that you are really meant to create to inspire others. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to this week's episode. I am thrilled to have you here. We are going to be diving into this feeling of playing business, how I stopped feeling like I was playing business or that my business was more of a hobby than a quote unquote real business. But before we dive into that, I want to share some background on that for you. I want to give you some strategies to let go of this if this is true for you, but I'm going to give you a quick update. So I know many of you listening are moms, or you want to become a mom one day, or maybe you're a parent of some sort. And so I know that's not true for everyone, but I know some people listening are. So I'd like to give you a little update behind the scenes, because one thing that I've been noticing is that a lot of people have been telling me how much they appreciate that I am a mom in business and how I'm balancing both. So I like to give you some behind the scenes sometimes. So I have to say that it is feeling so much easier this week to be back at work because both of my kids are back at school and, knock on wood, healthy at the time of this recording. A couple of weeks ago, one of my sons had pneumonia and he wasn't hugely sick, but he kept getting fevers. So he needed to be home on antibiotics. And my older son got sick too. And it's just been a lot of kids at home. And I just want to normalize for you, if you have little kids or you have school-aged kids, maybe even older kids, it can be a lot to run your business and be a parent as well. And I know that's not true for all of you. Some people listening are maybe, caring for elderly family members, or maybe you have caring responsibilities in some other way, or you have another job, and it can be a lot to build a business. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. And if you are a mom too, whether you are like me and you started your business when your kids are very little, my kids were almost babies when I started my business almost 8 years ago now. Or maybe you're school age or a little bit older. It's still a lot to manage. The mental load is a lot. And so I am feeling so spacious and it's just feeling so easy to work now that my kids are not at home. So I just wanted to give you that quick update to normalize if you are, dealing with balancing both. It can be a lot. And I totally see you in that. So let's dive into this feeling of playing business, or like your business is a hobby, and how to get over that feeling. So first off, the reason I wanted to do an episode on this is because I've been chatting a lot with clients recently, and this has been an ongoing theme coming up for folks. And I know if it's coming up for my clients, the odds of it coming up for you are pretty high as well. And so I wanted to touch on this so you can get a sense of what we kind of talk about behind the scenes, and so that you can get some support if you are feeling like you're playing business too. So the reason that, saying to yourself that you're playing business, or your little business, or your hobby, or if it feels like a hobby, the reason this is something you really want to let go of is because if you want to make your business bigger, if you want to grow your business, if you wanted to achieve any kind of big goal, it is not going to work if you call it playing, or if you call it a hobby, or if you call it your little side business. Because even if you're running your business full time, I've still had people say, my little business, or I feel like I'm playing business. And it's understandable, because when you think about it, like, we're running online businesses, and it's not like you're going to work every day. And like, I imagine, like, if I had a brick and mortar, like that idea of like driving to work and having my key in hand and like opening the front door and like turning all the lights on and getting everything ready for customers to come in. Like, that is not my reality as an online business owner, and it is not yours either. And so it can kind of feel like, here we are in our house turning on our computer at our desk. And it can feel like you're playing business because it's not like you have a physical business. It's like this imaginary business on the internet, right? So I want to acknowledge that it can feel like a pretend business because it's an online business. But when you think of it as playing business or as a hobby, it's never going to be able to grow to the goals that you have set for yourself because of the language that you're using. So you might have this goal, but the more you say, because your language creates your reality, right? Your beliefs create your reality. And so when you're saying I'm playing business, people who run multi 6-7-figure businesses aren't saying that they're playing business. They call it their business, right? And so it's really important to notice the language that you're using and speak it into existence. Because when you think about it, entrepreneurship is really creating something out of nothing that didn't exist before. Like any idea was something that was just in someone's mind before they manifested it and made it true, right? And so you want to speak about your business in a way that really reflects where you want it to go, rather than feeling like it's this side thing. And I think this is especially true if you have other responsibilities. Maybe you've got a job or you have caring responsibilities, but I'm especially going to speak to moms in this because I know many of the people who are listening are moms or moms to be, or you want to become a mom one day. Maybe I know some of my audience are like on a fertility journey or wanting to have a baby one day or have babies or have little kids or school age kids like me. And when it feels like you're playing business, it also brings up mom guilt. And so when you feel like I'm working on this hobby or it's this fun thing that I do on the side, when your family needs you, AKA almost all of the time, you can feel guilty for working on your little side business. And it's very easy to drop it in favor of what your kids might need or your family might need from you. And I'm not saying that we're going to prioritize our business over our kids. That's never the reality for me. I'm always going to prioritize my kids. But there are times where I'm going to take care of my business because my kids are already taken care of. Does that make sense? For example, this past Sunday, I hadn't created my email for the week that I normally write. And I took some time to write that weekly email that I send out to my email list. And before I would have felt guilty about that. There's still a twinge of it because I like to be a present parent and I know it's taking away from my family in other ways. But I know that my business supports us. My business gives to our family. It's the reason that I can afford to, when it was pouring rain on Halloween the other day, I was like, you know what? My kids need umbrellas. Let's go get them umbrellas. Like my business pays me. I can go out and get my kids umbrellas for Halloween for like something small like that. I can go to pick up my kids from school every day. I can be home with them. When they were home sick, like I was home every day with them. I didn't have to worry about taking sick days. Like the business supports me as a mom. It supports my family. And so my business has needs. I need to take care of my business too. And so if you feel like your business is playing business, it's going to be hard to take care of your business and support your business so that your business can support you back, because you're going to feel guilty about it like it's this little hobby and you can push it aside and then you have to pick it back up. So that is the danger of it, is you're not going to be able to grow it to the extent that you want to, and you might put it down. You might not prioritize it in the way that it needs to be prioritized. So you're not going to be able to grow it because other things will get in the way. So I'm not saying, just so that we're clear, like I always prioritize my kids, and I've also made ways like in my day, even when my kids were little. So I started my business when my oldest was 1. At first, I just built it on nap times. And then I started realizing it needed a little bit more if I wanted to grow it. So I started getting childcare, or I would have my husband take care of my son, or my mom might take care of him, or I had some childcare or daycare or preschool or whatever. Like I had little bits of time that was dedicated to my work. And once I created that time and carved out that time, like I made sure to make use of it. So it wasn't that I was just forgetting about my child or anything. It's not that, but like that both can be true. I can be a mom and I can prioritize my kids, and I can take care of my work that also supports my family. Just so that we're clear on that, because I know that can be something that can come up for people. So I wanted to share how I got over feeling like I was playing business, and I wanted to share some strategies with you to really help you let go of that feeling or that belief as well. So the first question to ask yourself is, in what way is calling your business a hobby or playing business or your little side business, whatever it is that you call it, in what way is that keeping you safe? Or said another way, what are you afraid to declare as truth? So why is it keeping you safe? So it might not be keeping you safe in that, like, when you feel like your business isn't making you enough money, like, it can feel really stressful for your home, and you can be like, it does not feel safe. This feels very uncomfortable, Lauren. My business feels very unpredictable and it's not making me enough money. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is there's still a part of you that feels safer by calling it playing business. Because when you declare that this is a real business, that this is a business that, like when you actually talk about it like a true business, and when other people ask you what it is that you do, and you say you run a business, that can feel scary because it opens you up to judgment. Like, who does she think she is running a business? Or what even is that? Or is that even a real thing? Or whatever it is that you're worried people are saying about you. And so sometimes it can feel easier to just keep it to the side and not really share it and declare that it's a business because it opens you up to judgment. So I remember at one point when I had just started, I've been running my business for a little while, and I didn't want people around me to know about it. So at the time, like, this was years ago when I was running my business. So I started my business creating curriculum for teachers. And so I was teaching part-time, and people kept asking me, like, do you want a full-time job? Do you want to work more hours? Do you want to come in? I was like, no, no, I don't. But I never told anyone that I taught with what I actually did for the first little while. I was like, no, I just really want to stay home with my son part-time. That's why I teach part-time. Or like at one point I was substitute teaching, and people were like, do you want we can get you a job. Do you want to, we have openings. There was such a shortage that people always were offering me jobs whenever I went to go substitute teach. And I said, no, I want to stay home with my son. But that wasn't actually the truth. Yes, I wanted to stay home with my son. But the reason I wanted to have my business is because I could stay home with my son. But I was building a business. But I was too scared to tell anyone that I was running a business, which was silly because over time, I started building up this business and people would recognize me. Like, I went in to go teach. And because my niche was very small, like, some people actually literally recognized me. Like, oh, aren't you... Like, my business at the time was called Parfaitement Bilingue, like perfectly bilingual. I sold like teaching resources for French teachers, and people would literally recognize me. And after a while, it's like, okay, I can't pretend that I don't have a business anymore. Like, people are starting to know. And after a while, I started to become more comfortable with it. But I was afraid, like, of all sorts of things. I was afraid, like, people would think that I wasn't that I wasn't going to value my job, or like people would judge my business, or like, what would people think? Like, I was just really afraid of what people would think, right? And so I didn't want to tell people in my general circle. And I see people doing this still, like, oh, I don't want to sell. I don't want to post it on, I don't want anyone to know about it in my current life. I just want to use ads because I don't want anyone to know here. But there's something so powerful in like owning what it is that you do and saying, like, this is what I do. It normalizes it. And it says, like, yeah, this is what I do. I feel, I don't know if it's worthy, but like telling the universe that you're like, yeah, I'm ready to build a bigger business. I'm ready to bring in more clients. I'm ready to make more money in my business when you actually speak it out. So now when people ask me what I do, is I say, like, I run an online business. And people ask me what it is that I do, and I'll share it with them. But I was wary of saying it before because, coming back to, it felt safer to say, like, oh, I'm just playing business, or I have this little business on the side, because it didn't feel like people were going to judge what I was doing. It feels a lot safer to have a side business or a side hustle than it does to say I'm fully self-employed, because then people have all these other judgments. It's like I don't know about you, but where in my realm, it's like it's more culturally appropriate or something to have this side business and have a quote unquote real job than it is to be an entrepreneur. So like, but it's so funny because now that I say, like, I run an online business, people are like, oh, that's so cool. Like, it's like, I've never had anyone like look at me funny. Like, most people just think it's really fascinating to hear about what it is that I do, right? And so my first question for you to think about is, what way is calling your business a hobby, or saying that you're playing business, and what way is it keeping you safe? What are you afraid of declaring? And how can you own that part of you rather than like letting fear dictate? So that could be part of it, is like, how is it keeping you safe? The next thing to think about is I wonder if you are choosing and making it an A or B distinction when it's actually all these other options are possibilities. So for example, coming back to the mom discussion that we were having before, is sometimes I think when we feel like we're playing business, like you might have clients at the time, but it might feel like whenever your family needs you, or if they wanted to do something spontaneous, or if someone asks you to do some driving for school or volunteering at school or supporting in any kind of community event or something like that, you can always say yes. And so when you think about like bringing in more clients or starting your group program or growing your group program, it might feel like, oh, if I do that and I'm not playing business anymore, I have to let people down, or I have to say no to people, or I'm not going to be a good mom if I run my business, because like growing a real business will make me a bad mom. Sometimes you're not even aware of it, but it's like you're choosing A or B. I can either be a good mom, or I can have a big, like a real business or a growing business or successful business or whatever the version of business is for you. And I can either have A or B. And if you're like most moms who at least follow me, if you're telling yourself that I can either be a good mom or I can run a business, what are you going to choose? You're going to choose being a mom, right? Like you're not going to choose the business because it feels like it's at the expense of your children. Or if you're saying like, I can either help people in my community or I can run my business, and you don't want to say no to people and you want to be there for people who you care about, you're going to choose that over your business. But is that actually true? Like, is that actually always the way it's going to be? Our minds naturally create this distinction of like, it's an A option or a B option often, but there's actually all these other options, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, but we don't, it's so much easier to think in black and white. And so I wonder if you're playing business, if you're telling yourself, if I create a real business, I won't be able to be a good mom, or like you're creating some sort of like bind for yourself. So, and you can even pause this as you're listening to this podcast. Like, does that feel true to me? Even like a part of you, does that feel true to you? Because that might be something that you can let go of. Because my belief now, for a while, it did feel like it would be taking away from my kids. But my belief now is like, no, like running my business actually makes me a better mom. It helps me as a mom because A, I'm more fulfilled. I'm more joyful. I'm doing the thing I actually want to be doing. I love my work. I love coaching. I love teaching. I love helping my clients. I love that part of my work. I'm very ambitious. I love to achieve goals. I love to go create things that it felt impossible to me and make them happen. I love all those things, and they really like make me feel like me. And so then when I am with my kids, I don't feel resentful. I don't feel like they're stopping me from being myself. I feel like I'm still myself and I'm a mom, but I haven't given those parts of me up for my kids, which is important to me, but it's not important for everyone. But for me, that really matters. And the other thing for me with my kids is that I want to be flexible for them. I want to be able to be home when they're sick, even though it stresses me out having them at home, not going to lie, but I want to be able to pick them up when they need me. I want to be able to go get them if they get sick or they need something. I want to be able to take them to the dentist. I want to be able to take them out of school and go on like trips and things like that without having to worry about an employer. Like I want to be able to choose the way that I am with them, right? And so for me, my business supports how I want to mother my kids and how I want to show up as a mom. I don't ever need to like show up late in the evenings if I don't want to, because an employer is requesting that of me or something like that, right? Like I get to choose my work on my own terms. And so for me, instead of feeling like a business is taking away from my kids, to me, it's actually making me more of the mom that I want to be. And so it's supporting me as a mom. And so I wonder for you, if you're saying, if I'm playing business, is there a distinction there? And can you create another reality for yourself? So I have 3 more strategies for you. The next one is to change your language. So just notice how you're talking about your business and just make it a new habit. Instead of saying I'm playing business or my little business, call it your business. Don't call it your little business or this hobby or a side hustle. Call it your business. And as you start to say that, it will become true, even though it might feel uncomfortable in your body when you first say it. The next way to think about it is to see your vision and hold it as truth, like make it as real as possible. Because the biggest challenge for me when I was building my business and it felt like it was like still kind of like a hobby was part of it was because I'm like, why do I feel so guilty working on this when I didn't feel guilty going to work, when I didn't feel guilty going to school? And I was like, well, maybe it was school hours. And then I thought, well, if it was report cards, I still wouldn't feel guilty writing report cards because I had to write report cards, but yet I feel guilty working on my business in some way. And what it came down to was that I was getting paid to teach, right? I used to be a teacher and I would get paid to do my job. And so it was guaranteed that I was going to be paid pretty much unless we went on strike, right? But like I would work, I would get paid. I would work, I would get paid. And then you enter the business world and you're like, I can work and work and work and work and never get paid. And so it felt like I was creating this thing without like a direct payoff. And I wasn't sure if it was going to work or if it was one day make the money that I wanted. And so it felt like, should I really be doing this when my kids need me right now? Or should I really be investing in childcare when I'm not making that much money? So a lot of it was around the money for me. And that might be true for you too. So what I would love for you to think about in this way is really seeing your vision and trusting that vision and like holding to it, like really seeing the reality that you want to create for your family and believing in that. And it's really difficult when you don't have any physical proof of it, which is going to get me to the next question. But I truly believe that if you have, like, really all it comes down to is like, is there a problem that you're solving that people are willing to pay for? And if you're not sure about that, find a new problem that you can solve. That's all there is to it. Like, you solve a problem that people are willing to pay for, you can be paid. Like, that's truly all it comes down to, right? And so when you believe that to be true, that there are like the abundance that is available, like it's really hard to imagine, really, because like you have the entire earth, like the entire world that you can work with. It's only a small portion of people that you need to make a really successful business, right? So it's like, what's the small, specific, important problem that you can solve? You can always make money from it. And it's just about like tapping into that market and figuring out how you're going to make that happen, what your offer is going to be, how you're going to get in front of the right people, how you're going to sell to them. But like ultimately it's absolutely possible. So you just have to hold on to that vision that one day that is going to be your reality too. And all of the effort that you're putting into running and building this business are one day going to come to fruition. And the last strategy that I have for you, coming back to that idea of the vision, is to surround yourself with what is possible. So I know for me, when I first wanted to run my group program, I had been in business for, I don't know, maybe 3 years at the time. And I mean, honestly, when I first started creating curriculum for teachers, I was like, can people actually pay me to create these? Like, this seems crazy, but I saw other people doing it. So I was like, maybe someone will pay me to do this. Like, I can't possibly imagine that. But then I put it up and then I started making sales. And I was like, oh, I guess that's possible for me too. But I saw other examples of it. And then I started going into communities and I saw how other people were actually building not just side hustles or curriculum-based businesses, but coaching-based businesses. And I started thinking, okay, if it's possible for her, maybe it's possible for me. And I started to like open my perspective of what was possible. And I remember the two really defining moments for me where the first was when I joined not just courses, but I joined a group coaching program myself. And that program there were so many calls, and sometimes it got overwhelming, but there were so many calls and this community, and I could always tap back into the community and I could go to the calls. And like anytime I fell into self-doubt, which I had a ton of, I could come back into the community and be like, no, I still got this. I can still do this. But I needed like this like reinforcement, which is part of the reason that I run the programs that I run now. So I have two main programs. I have Pilot Program Design, which helps you create and launch your first ever group program. And I've got Signature Program Design, which really helps you refine your program, make it truly scalable, and then scale that program. So it creates that consistent growing revenue, right? So I have 2 levels in my programs, but that's part of the reason that I have those programs is so people, whenever you feel like you're losing faith in yourself, you can tap back into the community and you can remember like, no, I got this. Like even though you might not see examples of it in your real life, you can tap back into the community and remember what's possible for you. So that's what I did with that group program is I would listen in and just like be around that energy of possibility, of remembering that even though it's kind of like an unusual path, it's still possible for me too. So that was the first one. And the other one I remember very distinctly is I went to a live event, and it was a huge live event with over 1,000 people. There were different speakers. And there was this one speaker, and the event was, if you've been listening to my podcast for a while, you know, one of my mentors for a long time, his name is James Wedmore, Business by Design. It was a Business by Design event. And I went to an event, and I remember there was this one speaker, and I don't even remember how big her business was at the time, but she was talking about how she went from teaching to wanting to create this. I think she has a membership and growing this membership, leaving her job. And now she was like breakthrough of the year. I don't know how much money she was making at the time. But the thing that really struck me is she had made so much success for herself in this year. And she was just like me. She looked like me. She used to be a teacher. She was a mom of little kids like me. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I think I had all these stories of like, well, it's different for you because you don't have kids, or you started your business before you had kids. Or the other thought that I had was like, oh, why did I go into teaching? No one buys from teachers. Like, I can't build a business as a teacher. I had that for a while. Or like, oh, I'm a mom, my little kids. I had all these excuses or reasons why I couldn't grow a more successful, larger business. And when I saw her, I'm like, she blew them all out of the water. She used to be a teacher. She had little kids. She was a mom. She had limited hours like me. And I was like, if she can do it, then it really made it feel possible for me. And one of the things that I even used to teach when I was a teacher was the importance of mirroring and seeing yourself reflected in society and diversity. Like, that was a big one for me, is like showing my students examples of people who looked like they did, for them to see what was possible and feeling reflected in society and things like that. And I think that is so powerful, is to surround yourself with people who are doing the thing that you want to do, and to find examples of people who look like you, of people who you relate to. And so that you can start to think like, okay, if they can do it, I can do it. If she can do it, if he can do it, if they can do it, I can do it. And that will really reinforce the belief that this isn't playing business. This is a real business, and you can create the success that you want to, just like that person did. So let's recap the 5 strategies that I've used and that I encourage you to use to stop playing business and start truly treating your business like the real business that it is. The first is to think about, in what way is calling your business a hobby keeping you safe? What are you afraid of declaring? The second is, notice if you're choosing an A or B option when there's actually option C, D, and E. Find a more empowering interpretation or choice for yourself. The third one was change your language. So notice how you're speaking about your business. The next one was see your vision and really hold on to it. Make it clear. Like, honestly, like the number of times I've visualized the thing that I want to create. The big one that I teach is, I love when I'm creating a new program is like, or like growing my program, is to imagine those people on my Zoom screen and seeing their faces and the number of people in my Zoom room before I actually do the thing. So holding your vision, seeing the vision of what you want to create for yourself or for your family, and then surround yourself with people who are doing the thing that you want to do, be it in programs like mine or with other programs, and find examples of people who look like you, who you relate to, who have a similar background to you, and who are doing the thing that you want to create in your business. So I hope this was helpful for you. I trust that it was. And yeah, trust yourself that you can really create this. You don't have to feel like you're playing business. It really made a massive, massive difference for me. And I know that it will for you as well. Thanks so much for being here. If you haven't yet, follow along to this podcast. Leave me a review. Send me a message on Instagram. I'd love to hear from you. And I will see you on the next